What drives a leader, already master of a continent, to gamble everything on a single colossal invasion? For Adolf Hitler, the decision to turn against his temporary ally, the Soviet Union, was not just a military strategy, it was the ultimate expression of his ideology. This is the story of Operation Barbarossa, a campaign born from ambition and hubris, which would become the graveyard of an army and the turning point of the Second World War. In the late summer of 1939, the world watched in stunned silence, trying to make sense of what was unfolding. Two ideologically opposed powers, Nazi Germany and the Soviet Union, set aside their rhetoric and agreed to come together for a purely opportunistic deal. On August 23, in the grand halls of the Kremlin, the foreign ministers Joachim von Ribbentrop signed a non-aggression pact. It was, in many ways, a documented masterpiece of geopolitical treachery. While the public agreement promised peace, a secret protocol hidden from the world served as a predator's charter. It carved up Eastern Europe with ruthless precision, assigning Poland, Finland, Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania into respective spheres of influence. For Adolf Hitler, the pact secured his eastern flank, paving the way for a direct and open assault on Poland. For Joseph Stalin, it bought valuable time and provided an opportunity to expand his empire westward. This was not an alliance of friends, but a temporary truce between two rival giants, each waiting for the right moment to betray the other. The outbreak of violence was only a matter of time. The ink had barely dried, yet the fuse of the largest conflict in history was already set and waiting to ignite. At 3:15 a.m. on June 26, 1941, the pact was shattered by the roar of cannons. Operation Barbarossa, the largest and most terrifying land invasion in human history, was launched. More than 3 million German soldiers, thousands of tanks, and waves of aircraft advanced in a full-scale assault, along a vast front stretching from the Baltic Sea to the Black Sea. Civilians watched the unfolding events in fear and anxiety. The surprise was complete. Soviet frontline units, caught entirely off guard, were routed by a storm of steel and fire. The Blitzkrieg, perfected in the West, seemed unstoppable across the wide, open steppes. Panzer divisions drove deep into Soviet territory, rapidly encircling entire armies. The Luftwaffe dominated the skies, turning airfields into graveyards of burning planes. For Hitler, this marked the beginning of an ideological crusade, a war of annihilation. For the soldiers of the Wehrmacht, it was a fast-moving summer campaign, a seemingly easy march toward Moscow. Yet the endless horizon of the East concealed hardships and challenges beyond their imagination. Before long, that vastness would begin to consume their ambition and ignite the slow burn of moral and psychological collapse. By late 1941, the German war machine, once thought invincible, began to falter. The autumn rains turned roads into impassable rivers of mud, slowing the Blitzkrieg to a near standstill. Then came the true enemy, General Winter. Temperatures dropped to unimaginable lows. Engines froze, oil congealed, and weapons refused to fire. Soldiers, still in their summer uniforms, were unprepared for the brutal Russian cold. Frostbite claimed more lives than combat. A human tragedy was unfolding. Just a few miles from Moscow, with the spires of the Kremlin visible on a clear day, the advance came to a complete halt. At this critical moment, the Red Army, reinforced by fresh Siberian divisions accustomed to the cold, launched a fierce counteroffensive. The hunters became the hunted. For German soldiers, the dream of a quick victory had turned into a frozen nightmare of attrition, a desperate struggle for survival against both a determined enemy and the merciless, unforgiving forces of nature on the very doorstep of their ultimate objective. It was as if they were at war not with the Soviets, but with the winter itself. The war's center of gravity shifted south, to a city on the Volga bearing Stalin's name. Here, the conflict evolved into a new kind of hell, Rattenkrieg, or Rat War. Fighting was not for fields, but for floors of buildings, individual rooms, and sewer tunnels. In November 1942, the Red Army launched Operation Uranus, a massive pincer movement that stunned the German command. In a matter of days, the entire German Sixth Army, over 250,000 men, was trapped. The city became a Kessel, a cauldron of attrition. A promised Luftwaffe airlift failed to materialize, delivering only a fraction of the needed supplies. Famine and the relentless cold became weapons as potent as any bullet. The German soldiers, surrounded and abandoned, fought on with grim futility. The surrender in February 1943 was not just a military defeat. It was a cataclysm that broke the spine of the Wehrmacht and signaled a turning point from which the Third Reich would never recover. By April 1945, the war had come home to its architect. Deep beneath the shattered streets of Berlin, in the damp, concrete confines of the Führer bunker, the final act played out. Reality had been banished, replaced by a fantasy world of phantom armies and delusional counterattacks. As Soviet artillery relentlessly pounded the city above, the bunker became a subterranean court of the doomed. Hitler, a stooped, trembling figure, moved non-existent divisions on a map, his authority collapsing along with the ceilings. The atmosphere was a toxic mix of fanatical loyalty, stark terror, and cynical betrayal. Generals and aides moved through the stark corridors like ghosts, their world shrinking to this concrete tomb. It was a Götterdämmerung, a twilight of the gods, not in a mythical opera house, but in a squalid, suffocating bunker. The 1,000-year Reich, born of grand rallies and torchlight parades, was breathing its last in the dark, its final moments marked by the tremor of approaching Soviet tanks.